In the winter of 1959, 9 experienced hikers set out to conquer a remote mountain in the Russian Urals. What happened next became one of the most baffling mysteries of the 20th century. A case so disturbing that the Soviet government classified all evidence for over 30 years, and the mountain itself was renamed Dead Mountain. This is the story of the Dyatlov Pass Incident, where 9 people died in circumstances so bizarre that investigators concluded they were killed by an unknown compelling force. The group was led by Igor Dyatlov, a 23-year-old engineering student who was an expert mountaineer and experienced in leading expeditions through harsh Russian wilderness. His team consisted of 8 other students from the Ural State Technical University, all skilled hikers who had tackled difficult terrain before. They planned a 3-week trek to reach Gara Utorten, a mountain whose name in the local Mansi language means "don't go there." The indigenous Mansi people had always avoided this area, claiming it was cursed, but the students dismissed these warnings as superstition. On January 27, 1959, the group began their journey into the northern Urals. The plan was straightforward. They would ski and hike through the wilderness, establish camps along the way, and reach the mountain before returning to civilization. Dyatlov had promised to send a telegram to their sports club when they returned, expected by February. When that date came and went with no word from the group, a search and rescue operation was launched. What the search teams found on February 26, 1959, defied all logical explanation. The group's tent was discovered on the slopes of what is now called Dyatlov Pass, but it had been cut open from the inside as if the occupants had desperately slashed their way out in a panic. The tent was still partially standing, with all of the group's belongings, food and warm clothing left inside. Most bizarrely, the tent showed no signs of external damage. Whatever had terrified the hikers enough to flee into the deadly cold had come from within their shelter or had somehow compelled them to destroy their own protection. The first 2 bodies were found at the edge of a nearby forest, barefoot and wearing only underwear. Yuri Krivonishenko and Yuri Doroshenko had apparently tried to climb a large cedar tree, breaking branches up to 5 meters high in their desperate attempt to see something or escape from something. Both had died from hypothermia, but their hands were burned and their fingernails were torn off, suggesting they had been frantically trying to start a fire or claw their way up the tree. 3 more bodies, including Igor Dyatlov himself, were discovered between the tent and the forest, arranged in a line as if they had been trying to return to their shelter. All had died from hypothermia, but the pattern of their deaths made no sense. These were experienced outdoorsmen who knew that leaving their tent without proper clothing in 30°C weather was certain death. Yet they had done exactly that. The remaining 4 bodies weren't found until May, when the snow melted enough to reveal a ravine about 75 meters from the cedar tree. These bodies were different. They hadn't died from cold. Nikolai Fibo-Brignol had a fractured skull. Alexander Zolotaryov and Lyudmila Dubanina had severe chest injuries, with broken ribs and internal damage consistent with extreme force, as if they had been crushed by something immensely powerful. Most disturbing of all, Dubanina's tongue and eyes were missing, apparently removed while she was still alive. The Soviet investigation that followed was shrouded in secrecy from the beginning. The lead investigator, Lev Ivanov, was an experienced prosecutor who had handled many difficult cases, but he later admitted that the Dyatlov Pass incident was unlike anything he had ever encountered. His initial investigation revealed several disturbing details that the government immediately classified. First, the tent and the area around it showed traces of radioactivity. The victim's clothing contained levels of radiation that couldn't be explained by any known source in the area. Second, witnesses reported seeing strange orange lights in the sky over the mountains on the night the group died. These lights were reported by multiple independent observers, including meteorologists at a weather station and other hiking groups in the region. Most puzzling were the physical evidence and autopsy results. The force required to cause the chest injuries found on some victims was compared to being hit by a car, yet there were no external wounds or signs of struggle. The pattern of broken ribs suggested the victims had been compressed by something enormous, but there were no tracks or signs of any large animal or vehicle in the snow around their bodies. Investigator Ivanov also discovered that the area had been visited by military personnel before the search teams arrived. But when he tried to question them about what they had seen, he was told the information was classified. Geiger counter readings from the site were confiscated, and witness testimony about the strange lights was excluded from the official report. The final government conclusion was deliberately vague and unsatisfying. The hikers had died due to a compelling unknown force. The case was closed and all materials were classified. Ivanov was transferred to a different position, and team members who had participated in the search were told never to discuss what they had seen. For decades, the Soviet government maintained that the Dyatlov Pass incident was simply a tragic accident caused by severe weather and panic. But in 2019, the Russian government reopened the investigation, and new evidence has emerged that makes the mystery even deeper. Modern forensic analysis has confirmed that the injuries found on some victims could not have been caused by human attackers or known animals. The force required was simply too great. Recent investigations have also revealed that the area around Dyatlov Pass was the site of secret military testing in 1959. Including experiments with new types of weapons and aircraft. Some researchers believe the hikers may have witnessed classified military activities and were killed to prevent them from reporting what they saw. Others point to the radioactivity and strange lights as evidence of something even more extraordinary. Local Mansi people who still live in the region continue to avoid Dyatlov Pass, maintaining that the area is cursed and that spirits of the dead hikers still roam the mountain. Hunters and other travelers report feeling overwhelming dread when approaching the area, and some claim to have seen figures moving through the snow where no one should be. Today, Dyatlov Pass remains one of the most investigated and least understood tragedies in modern history. Whatever killed those 9 students in 1959 left behind evidence that doesn't fit any conventional explanation, and the Russian government's continued secrecy about the case only deepens the mystery. The mountain that the Mansi people warned against visiting has kept its deadly secret for over 60 years, and the unknown compelling force that claimed 9 lives remains as mysterious today as it was on that terrible night in